Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallama wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. So today, inshallah ta'ala, we continue our monthly class on a woman's guide to raising a family. And by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we've reached page number 41. And today's class is being held on an off day, meaning Saturday, March the 27th. Normally the class is the first Saturday of the month, but due to a lecture series being held at the beginning of the month, we didn't hold class. So inshallah ta'ala, we wanted to hold class. We didn't want to miss class in totality. So inshallah ta'ala, we'll sit today, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, in order to make sure that we can maintain some consistency in the class. So we'll look at a few points today, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, and then next week, which is the first Saturday of the month, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we'll seek to finish up the book, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And what we'll do is we'll summarize pages 41 to 43, and then we'll begin to read. We'll summarize pages 41 to 43, and then we'll begin to read, inshallah ta'ala. So as it relates to some of the points that are contained on page 41, then it begins to discuss the topic of, Sheikh Fawzan begins to discuss the topic of a woman's role in helping to foster family ties. He begins to discuss the topic of a woman's role in helping to foster family ties. And Sheikh Fawzan, hafidhahullah, he mentions that the woman should be diligent, right? The woman should be diligent in making the entire family a source of comfort. And that's been the theme. It's been the theme of this particular book as we've studied. It's been the theme that from the important roles of a woman is that she makes the home a place of comfort. From the important roles of a woman is that she makes the home a place of comfort. And previously, we discussed that role of making the home a place of comfort. We've discussed the role of making the home a place of comfort. We discussed it from the angle of her making it a place of comfort for the husband, the wife, and the children, meaning those who are under her roof, those who are under the roof of her home. We discussed making it her being a source of comfort for the husband and a source of comfort for the children in her particular house. But what's meant by this particular portion of the book is her making the entire family a source of comfort, meaning the extended family, meaning the husband's family. Her being a source of comfort for the husband's family. Meaning that she's a source of comfort for her mother-in-law. That she builds the family ties between the mother-in-law and the son being her husband. She makes sure that that's a comfortable situation. That maybe she invites the mother-in-law over for dinner. Maybe that they spend time together. That she takes the children to visit them, and the mother-in-law comes over to visit the children. But that she's a means for a source of comfort. She's a means for a source of comfort as it relates to her husband's mother. Likewise, as it relates to the husband's father. That she's a source of comfort for. She's a source of comfort for the husband's father. Meaning her father-in-law, the husband's family in general. Likewise, the brothers and the sisters. So she embodies that role as well. She seeks to be a source of comfort for her immediate family, meaning those under her roof, in her household. And likewise, she seeks to make the family comfortable in a broader sense, meaning her in-laws. And no doubt that's important because Sheikh Fawzan, he discusses the opposite, right? He discusses the opposite, that the wife should foster and make, he mentions that the wife should foster and make sure these relationships stay intact, meaning the ideal situation. That the wife should foster and make sure these relationships stay intact. And then he mentions the opposite. He mentions the the opposite, and that there are two types of women as it relates to this. Right? The first type of woman we discussed. The first type of woman we've discussed briefly already. And that's the woman that helps to keep family ties. Right? She understands her role. She understands that that's a role of her being married and a role of her building a family. Is that she interacts with her in-laws and that she has a good relationship with her in-laws. And she makes that a comfortable situation. And no doubt that makes the marriage beautiful. No doubt that makes the marriage beautiful. So there's a woman who understands that. That's the first type of woman. And she fears Allah as it relates to that. She understands that particular role. And she fears Allah as it relates to that. And likewise, there's a second type of woman, which is the woman who's ignorant. The woman who's ignorant of the situation. It may just be a lack of knowledge. It may just be a lack of knowledge wherein she has to learn. And likewise, that's been the theme of this particular class, that a woman has to learn how to play her part. A woman has to learn how to play her role. She has to learn it. She has to learn, because in reality it's part of Islam. And actions require knowledge. Actions require knowledge. So it may be a woman that is ignorant of her role or her duties as it relates to her and her in-laws. Or it could be a woman that knows. It could be a woman that knows, but she doesn't fear Allah. That she doesn't fear Allah, and she causes discord. So she causes discord between the husband and his mother. Right? She tries to come between them, or does things that are unbefitting, or there's a situation with the father-in-law, or likewise the husband's sisters or the husband's brothers. And she's a problem. She's a problem, and she doesn't foster the means, and she doesn't foster those relationships and try to build those relationships. And no doubt, just a quick point, is upon the husbands, because no doubt even though this is a women's class or a women's class, we try to make sure that we address ourselves as brothers as well. It's upon you to make sure that your in-laws have a good thought about your wife. It's upon you to make sure that your in-laws have a good thought about your wife. So if there's something that's going on between you and your wife, you don't go run and spread it to your family members, because at the end of the day, the more negative things that you say about your spouse to your family members, the more the perception is going to be negative as it relates to your spouse. So they'll begin to look at her in a different light, because you're always saying negative things about her. Likewise, the opposite with the wife is not for her to repeatedly say negative things about her husband. It's not for her to repeatedly say negative things about her husband, because when she says those things about her husband, it's going to cause her family to look at her look at him in a negative light. So it's upon the spouses to display a level of responsibility as it relates to that, because those negative things that are said to the opposite members of the family, those negative things that are said to the members of the family, there's no doubt that's going to resonate with them, and it's going to cause them to have a bad view of your spouse. And at the end of the day, you may say those things out of anger, or you may say those things out of frustration, and you and your spouse, you go back to your normal lives. You go back to your normal lives, and you forgive one another. And you go back to how you are. But the stain is already there as it relates to the in-laws. The stain is already there as it relates to the in-laws. So the spouses, they have to display a level of maturity and a level of responsibility in keeping things amongst themselves. And again, we want to stay balanced, because there may be things that you cannot keep to yourself. If the situation escalates to domestic violence, or the situation escalates to some type of abuse, or things that cross the line, and things where other family members need to be involved. So we're not saying keep everything a secret. That's not what's being said. But what's being said is that we display a level of responsibility and don't voice every issue that you and your spouse have to your family members, because like I said, it's going to leave a negative taste in the family member's mouth, and no doubt a bad taste in the family member's mouth. And no doubt, a way to understand that is to put yourself in those situations. A way to clearly understand that is that if you're a man and you have a daughter, and your daughter is constantly saying negative things about her husband to you, she's constantly complaining to you about her husband. You're the father, and you're listening to this from your daughter, right? And you're listening to this from your daughter. That's going to cause you to start to second guess the brother, and it creates an unpleasant environment. So, end of the day, we want to display a level of responsibility as it relates to that. The point being that we wanted to make is that from the duties of a woman, is to maintain or to create a level of comfort between the in-laws, to maintain and create a level of comfort amongst the in-laws, where the husband's family loves her, right? The husband's family, they love her, and they see the good that she does, and they see that she brings the family together, and she's full of good, and she's full of good. Now, likewise, as it relates to pages 41 to 43, Sheikh Fawzani mentions one of the important roles of a woman is raising the children. One of the important roles of a woman is raising the children, and he mentions that this is for two reasons. This is for two reasons that her role is so important. The first one, in a nutshell, and this is on page 42. You can return to the book to read the whole thing if you desire. But in a nutshell, that's because the reason why raising a child is so important as it relates to the woman, the reason why it's so important for a woman to raise her child properly is because that child is going to enter into society. That child is going to enter into society and be a part of the Muslim nation. So it's extremely important for a woman to raise her child properly. That's a very important duty of hers as it relates to the structure of the family, that she raises the children properly, right? Because it is the source of direction for the child, and from the child the ummah is formed, as Sheikh Fawzan mentions. So the mother is going to give the child its directions. The mother is going to give the child his or her direction. That's the first reason why that's so important. The second reason is because the child needs guidance. The child needs guidance. And there are many things that the child is unfamiliar with. So the child needs education, and the child needs to be taught. The child needs education, and the child needs to be taught. And no doubt, again, a lot of these things that we're saying, that they're returning back to things that we discuss all of the time. And in order for the mother to educate her child, she's going to have to make sure that she educates herself. She's going to have to make sure that she educates herself. And no doubt, children can be sent to Islamic schools, and children can be sent to the masjid and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, the child is likewise going to be in the home. Likewise, the child is likewise going to be in the home. So they need to be able to receive the proper Islamic guidance from within the home as well. Sheikh Fawzan, he continued to discuss that topic. And he mentions that the responsibility of raising the child is upon both parents. Right, so that's clear as well. I'm not saying that the sole responsibility of raising the child is for the mother, but raising the child is the responsibility of both parents. Raising the child is the responsibility of both parents. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, ku anfusakum wa ahlikum nara, wa kuduha an-nasu wal hijara. Allah mentions in the Quran, O you who believe, ward off yourselves and your families a fire whose fuel is min and stone. Whose fuel is min and stone. And save yourselves and your family from the fire. So it's upon all of us to raise our children, men and women. But however, Sheikh Fawzani mentions an important point, right? However, when we analyze the reality of the situation, we find that the man only spends a short time within the home and with his children. And that's normally the case. That the man only spends a short time within the home and with his children. No doubt, because a man is normally busy working and trying to provide. Right? Going to the masjid. Right? The man is in and out of the house. And this is in relation to the amount of time. So when we look at the time as it relates to the man, right? When we look at time as it relates to the man, we'll look at it from two angles. The first angle is the amount. The first angle is the amount of time. And the amount of time may not be that much, as we already mentioned, because a man is busy. Normally a man is busy. And the second angle that we want to look at as it relates to the time is the quality of the time. Is the quality of the time. So no doubt, a man is going to spend quality time with his children. They're going to be family outings and things of that nature. But we're talking on a day-to-day basis. Normally, when the man comes in the house, he's tired. So the quality of time that he spends with his children isn't what it would be if he was well rested. So we look at time from two angles as it relates to the man, right? So the amount, and the amount may be small, maybe a small amount of time or a little amount of time. And no doubt, we're not saying we're talking about a responsible man. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about the scenario of responsible men, right? That the time may be little due to him working. He may take two jobs. He may work a double. He may have a job and he may have a side hustle along with that, right? So that's what we're talking about, responsibility, right? We're not talking about somebody just being negligent. That doesn't enter into this conversation. Right now we're talking about responsible adults and responsible mothers and fathers. We're not talking about other situations. Right? So when we say the time is little, no one should hear that. No man should hear that and say, yeah, the time is little. In reality, they're being neglectful. We're not talking about that. We're talking about a lack of time due to a person being responsible. So, again, looking at time from two angles. The amount of time, it may be little. The amount of time, it may be little. And likewise, we look at it from the angle of the quality of time. The quality of time as it relates to the man, it may not be that high. It may not be that high quality of time, especially during the week, especially during the daily routine, because man comes in and he's tired and he's exhausted and he may want to rest. And no doubt on his days off and things of that nature, he'll be well rested, and the level of quality of the time will no doubt heighten and increase. We're just talking about from a daily angle. So if we ponder these two things, we'll see that the woman plays the biggest role in raising a child. The woman plays the biggest role in raising a child as it relates to the amount of time that she's going to spend with the children, and likewise as it relates to the quality of time that she's going to spend with the children, because her energetic moments, and no doubt women, they become tired as well, but no doubt her energetic moments are going to be inside of the home, whereas the man, his energetic moments are at work. So the woman is going to have those energetic moments at home, and she's able to cultivate the children and to teach the children and to use that energy in order so she plays the main role in that. And again, it takes both parents to raise the child. I'm not saying that it doesn't take both, but we're just having a discussion about how things happen. It's the duty of both parents. But we say what's apparent is that the woman plays the biggest role. The biggest role. So if we look at page 43, we said that we wanted to summarize from 41 to 43. But let's look at page 43, or word for word, starting from page 43. So Sheikh Fawzani mentions, when we analyze the reality of the situation, we find that the man only spends a short time within his home and with his children. And he mentions this is in relation to the amount of time. As it relates to the how, meaning the quality of the time, then during this time, when he's actually home, he's exhausted from work and he's seeking to rest. He wants to come home and to rest. He wants to come home and he wants to rest. Right? He is not able to think about the state of his children. And no doubt that doesn't mean a total neglect, but he's not able to, he doesn't have that mental energy. No doubt he's going to come home and he's going to interact with his children. And no doubt it's something that men can testify to. He's going to interact with his children. But, at the end of the day, he's had a long day. But of course, he's going to hug his children. He's going to kiss his children. He's going to, ask them about their day. He's going to spend the amount of time with them that he can. But at the end of the day, he's going to want to get some rest. Right? So he's not able to think deeply, right, about the state of his children at that particular moment. And again, like we said, as fathers, no doubt there are going to be those days the days that you're off, the days that you're on vacation, or the days that you don't have to do anything. And no doubt that quality of time is going to increase, and you'll be able to use your energetic moments as a man to spend that time with your family. Now, but again, we're talking about day-to-day operations. So it is apparent that the biggest role in regards to this is the role of the woman and the biggest role in regards to this is the role of the woman and her responsibility, meaning raising the children. So Bukhari reported on the authority of Jabir ibn Abdullah that he said, my father had died, and pay attention to this hadith, right? Pay attention to this particular hadith. My father had died and left behind 7 or 9 daughters. So I married a virgin. So I married a non-virgin. I married a non-virgin, meaning a woman that was married before. Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to me, Tazawwajta ya Jabir. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, did you get married, O Jabir? Did you get married, O Jabir? I said, yes. So Jabir, he said, yes. He said, Bikran aw thayyiba. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, did you get married to a virgin or a non-virgin? So I said, a non-virgin. So he sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, so the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, فَهَلَّا جَارِيَةٌ تُلَاعِبُهَا وَتُلَاعِبُكَ وَتُضَاحِكُهَا وَتُضَاحِكُكَ. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, why not a young girl? Why not a young girl so that you could play with her and she could play with you? Right, so you can play with her. Y'all can enjoy each other's company, same age bracket. Right, y'all can enjoy each other's company. You can make her laugh, and she can make you laugh. Right, y'all same age bracket, things in common, and things of that nature. Why didn't you marry a young girl? So I said to him, Abdullah has died and left behind daughters, So I dislike to bring home someone similar to them. He didn't want to bring home someone that's similar to them. Thus, I married a woman, and this is the point of reference. Thus, I married a woman who could care for them and cultivate them, right? So in that particular situation, we see the wording is going back to the woman for the care and the cultivation. And again, it doesn't mean that the father is not part of that, but we're talking about the bulk of the duty. Where does the bulk of the duty lie? So thus, I married a woman who could care for them and cultivate them. So he sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Barakallahu lak, aw qala khayra. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, may Allah bless you, may Allah bless you. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he agreed with that thought pattern. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam agreed with that thought process. Now, so this hadith, it indicates that the woman participates with her husband in raising a child. Rather, the primary role is hers, as comes in the hadith. The primary role is hers, as comes in the hadith. Now, and as it states in the hadith, a woman who could care for and cultivate them. A woman who could care for and cultivate them. Now, and inshallah ta'ala, we'll stop there. As I mentioned, we just wanted to have class to maintain some consistency. But next week, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, is the first Saturday of the month. So we'll be back at our normal time. And inshallah ta'ala, هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.